To order the planning and zoning meeting for Tuesday, March 9th. It is currently 7:33 planning and zoning meeting for Tuesday, March 9th. We'll go ahead and forego the silent meditation and pledges that was already done. We'll go ahead and forego the silent meditation and pledges that was already done.
Roll call,
Madam
Chair Martin.
Clerk, can I please have a roll call? Here.
Roll call,
Vice
Chair
Chair
Martin.
Here.
Here.
Member
Vice Chair
Urbom.
Perella.
Present.
Here.
Member Lightfoot Ward. Member Urbom.
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby,
Member
Village Clerk,
Lightfoot
is the
Ward.
Alu Village Manager.
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, is the Alu
Here.
Village
Interim.
Manager.
Huh?
Here.
You said here? I didn't call
Here.
you.
Interim.
Huh?
Here.
Nixon. You said here?
Oh,
I didn't
here.
call you? I didn't say here. Okay. And,
Nixon.
Attorney Joseph Geller. I didn't say here. Okay. And,
At this time,
Attorney
we'll
Joseph
move
Geller.
forward with the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any additions or deletions that they would like? Approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any additions or deletions that they would like to?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to I'll second approve the the motion. agenda as is, Madam
Awesome,
Chair.
Awesome. All right,
I'll
so,
second the motion.
we're gonna move forward with the good and welfare, but what I do want to just kind of we're gonna move forward with the good and welfare, but what I do want to just kind of state is, I would appreciate if we would try timing muscle and keep this meeting to 30 minutes, as that is what is allotted. Timing muscle and keep this meeting to 30 minutes. I am gonna open it up to the public for public comment, but I would ask everyone to I am gonna open it up to the public for public comment, but I would ask everyone to committee members would really appreciate if we kept our comments as committee members would really. So with that being said, I'll open it up for the good and welfare. Does anyone have any comment? That being said, I'll open it up for the good and welfare. Does anyone have any comment they would like to make on any of the agenda items? All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close it up and move on to the agenda item. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close it up and move on to the agenda item. Each one. Each one. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna take a step back and we'll vote on the motion to approve the agenda. All right, so I'm gonna take a step back and we'll vote on the motion to approve the agenda. Okay. Second.
I'll second that motion again,
Oh.
Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, so now
I'll-
we
I'll
will
second that
go
motion
back
again,
into
Madam
the
Chair.
agenda items. All right, so now we will go back into the agenda items. F1 being
You
the first.
just want to say all in favor, say aye, and all opposed, say no,
sorry.
Madam Chair. That's a.
You guys-
just
you
wanna
guys are
say
gonna
all in
have to
favor.
bear
You're
with
good.
me.
You're
All
good,
opposed,
Madam
say
Chair.
no.
Madam Chair, that's a.
You guys are gonna have to bear with me.
You're
as I
good.
learn the
You're
hard
good, Madam
way.
Chair. You're
So
doing
all
wonderful.
you guys are gonna have to bear with me as
Aye.
I learn the hard way. So now we'll go into our agenda
Aye.
items. Okay, awesome. Now we'll go into our agenda items. I think at this point, we will have either Juan or Camila. So, I think at this point, we will have just a brief presentation on what we are looking at and why. Just a brief presentation on what we are looking at and why.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Thank you. Good evening, council. Eventually. Thank you. I'm not sure if, thank you, the applicant should, I'm not sure. Hello, hello, thank you. I'm not sure if the applicant, good evening, if the applicant should present, thank you. I'm not sure if the applicant, good evening, if the applicant should present their project first, or do we present
Okay, could the
our
applicant come up
recommendation?
to this podium for
could the applicant
1
come up
Northeast
to
87th
this
Street?
podium?
For
Present.
1 Northeast 87th Street? To present. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is
Could you state your
Ricardo
name
Garcia.
and
I'm
address
the
for the
architect of the project.
Yes, my name is
I'm here
Ricardo
also
Garcia.
with,
I'm the architect
client,
of the project. I'm here also
Jorge.
with the client.
So we are
Jorge.
proposing
remodeling of
proposing,
existing
residence.
remodeling
is
of
1
Northeast
existing
87th Street
residence.
in El Portal.
The address
is
is
1 Northeast 87th Street.
in El Portal.
One level,
It's a one
residence. We are proposing adding
one level,
a second level residence. We are proposing adding
and
a second level. The resident and at the moment, it is facing
the south and
it is,
west,
facing
part
the
of
south
the side is
and
exposed
west,
to first the street.
part of the side
we're
is
trying
exposed
to
complement
the street.
this by opening up
We're trying
the
to
side
complement
into this by opening up
the
side
visibility
into
of the street,
and try
the
to encourage
visibility of the street,
and try to encourage
a more visual,
appealing
to
a more
respecting,
visual,
of course,
appealing
to
first
respecting,
northeast.
of course, the first
One of
northeast.
the
Concerns, of course, was
one of
the privacy
concerns,
since
of
this
course,
is a very
was
busy
the
street,
privacy,
but also
since
we
this
wanted
is a
to
very
respect
busy,
the street, but also we wanted to
the-
respect the let me put it this way, the appeal of what
let me
is
put it this way,
the
First
appeal
Street
of what is
First Northeast.
so we open up a little bit the
First
side.
Northeast.
We try to
So we open up a little
avoid
bit
having
the
a
side.
fence. We try to
we
avoid
substitute
having
that
a
with
fence
lush landscape,
and
we
some
substitute
window
that
openings
with
lush landscape,
and we apply
and
that as
some
well
window openings
into the
and we apply that
87th
as
Street.
well into the
most of the
87th
house
Street
open
into the
most
courtyard,
of
house
and
open into the courtyard, and
to give privacy to the owner.
so
To give privacy to the owner.
that is pretty
so
much what the project
That is pretty much
I've been
what
in
the
contact
project
with
with
Camila
is regarding some
I've
of
been
the
in concerns of the city
with
the
Camila,
city,
and I
regarding
try
some
to
of the,
address those
concerns of the city,
as much as we could,
and I try to address those
where we open
to any
as
suggestions.
much as we could.
Where we open to any suggestions.
Madam Chair, if I may.
All right,
Madam Camilla, Chair, if I what do may. we know about
Alright.
as far as
Um,
recommendation? Camilla,
Yes,
what do we know
the
about
staff
as far as
recommendation for
recommendation?
this, Yes, addition to,
The
sorry,
staff
addition is
recommendation
approval
for
with
this,
conditions.
Addition to,
Because,
sorry, addition is approval with
conditions. Our observation
because,
is that the proposing design alters the existing building.
Our observation is
to the
that
extent
the
that
proposing
it is
design
not
alters the
compatible
existing
with
building,
the,
especially
to the
with the
extent
design
that it is not
guidelines
compatible
recommended
with
in the recently
especially
adopted
with the design,
the pattern book,
guidelines,
the El Portal design
recommended
guidelines
in
earlier,
the recently
actually last
adopted
year.
the pattern book.
The
It
El Portal
alters,
design
it's not
guidelines
consistent with
earlier,
the scale,
actually last
proportion, or
year.
the arrangement of the,
It alters
building
it's not
elements,
consistent with the scale,
especially
proportion,
in
or
the
the arrangement
facades
of the
facing northeast
building
87th
elements,
and North
especially
Miami
in the
Avenue.
facades.
Therefore, facing northeast
um,
87th and North
the
Miami Avenue.
conditions,
Therefore,
the approval with conditions is
um,
recommended,
the conditions,
subject to the following.
the approval with
We
conditions
also
is
observed that there's a
recommended,
portion of,
subject to the
um,
following.
we also observed that there's a portion
of the primary front setback.
the
So
fu-
the
of the
conditions
fence
go
in
as
the
follows.
primary
Removal
front
of the
setback.
portion of the proposed privacy
So
wood fence
the
within the
conditions
primary
go
front
as follows.
setback. Removal of the portion of the proposed project shall be in conformance with the applicant's submittal package
Construction of the
stated,
proposed project shall be
February
in
25th of
conformance with the
2021
applicant's
and
submittal
and
package
subsequent
stated.
revisions.
Construction of the
25th
proposed
of
project
2021
shall be in
and
conformance with
subsequent
all
revisions.
representations proffered by
Construction of
the
the
applicant
proposed
as part of the
project
review
shall be in
of the
conformance with
application
all
at public
representations
hearings.
proffered by the applicant as
Construction
part
of
of
the
the
proposed
review
project shall be in
of the
conformance
application
with
at
all
public
comments
hearings.
made
As part of the
Construction
review
of the
application
proposed
at
project shall
public
be in
hearings.
conformance with all
And
comments
construction
made
of the
as
proposed
part of the
project shall be
review
in conformance
application
with
at
all
public
comments made by
hearings.
staff reviewers
And
and submitted to
construction of
the
the
applicant
proposed
to be
project shall be in
addressed prior
conformance
to
with
the
all
building
comments made
permit.
by staff reviewers and
These submitted to the
include
applicant to be addressed
the
prior to the
comments
building
that
permit. We have
these would include
addressed within the staff report
comments
that can potentially be we have made in this meeting. addressed within the staff report prior to the council that meeting.
can
potentially be made in this meeting
I have a question,
prior
Camilla.
to the council meeting.
So we're looking at something now, and I think that that is different from what we were given before now. And I think that that is different from what we were given before. Have you had an opportunity to view this updated plan that we're looking at now?
The same as it was presented on the
Okay.
agenda.
We-
It's basically the same.
So this
as
is
it
the
was
same
Yeah,
thing?
if
Okay.
that, we reviewed the
So this is the
submission that
same
has
thing.
the
If that
rendering
we
of the
reviewed
cover,
the
yes. Submission that has the
I have
rendering of the cover,
extra
yes.
renderings here. that weren't not included in that set. Extra renderings here
Okay.
that weren't not included in that set, if you wanna.
Madam Chair, just a quick point, if there are questions from members of the public, they should have access. If there are questions from being able to see members of the public, they should have access to being
So
able to see a
how do
copy
we
of the
best do
rendering as
that?
well.
Do we just pass around the renderings? Or
So
maybe I
how
should
do-
ask
how
her-
do we
best do that? Yeah, do we just pass around
If
the
somebody
renderings? Or
requests
maybe I
it,
should
we have
ask
the
her.
big set
Yeah,
here.
I just want to make sure we're all
If somebody
comparing
requests it, we have the
same
big
thing.
set here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all comparing the same thing.
Madam Chair, it's either one or two things are gonna happen tonight. Madam Chair, it's either one or two things are gonna happen tonight. You can hit the gavel and get, you can hit the gavel and get, you can hit the gavel and get, you can hit the gavel and get.
Okay, so Camila. Okay, so Camila.
The set that we had did not include the additional renderings, but the design and the elevations that we have matches the additional renderings, but the design and the elevations that we have matches the.
So your initial concerns remain the same?
just seen in
The
Councilperson
recommendation
PLS.
remains the same?
It remains
So
the
your
same.
initial
Correct.
concerns remain the
Yes. Okay.
same? The recommendation remains the same?
It remains
All
the
right,
same.
so I'll open up
Correct.
the
Yes.
discussion
Okay.
to our committee members. All right,
Madam
so I'll
Chair,
open up the discussion to
hearing-
our committee members.
I'm not hearing preparedness. Am I hearing, why are we here tonight? I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that the client should even be here right now. I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that the client should even be here right now. I'm not hearing so many things. Also, I have a problem with so many things. That's okay, I know how to read plans and whatnot, but that's okay, I know how to. This is a huge project. It's incompatible based on what the planner has said. It's incompatible based on what the planner has said. Thank you for coming. You've been giving us enough information for me to be happy with it. Thank you for coming. You've been giving us enough information. Are we in a state of preparedness to do anything, or what are we here today for? Are we in a state of preparedness to do anything, or what are we here today for?
Madam Chair. The answer, I believe, Dr. Lightfoot Ward, is that the answer, I believe, Dr. Lightfoot Ward, is site plan approval. That the applicant answer your question directly, that's the issue presented before. Answer your question directly, things you can look at, the issue presented before. The staff report, things you can look at, is considered evidence. The staff report, the basis of your decision, is considered evidence. In addition to the staff report of your decision, you can take other testimony where it's competent. You can take other testimony where it's competent, and the applicant's architect. The applicant testimony to the applicant's architect, and that provide testimony to is evidence, and that if they're sworn in, and my recommendation, Madam Chair, if they're sworn in, and anybody who's going to be testifying, Chair, is that providing evidence. Anybody who's going to be testifying, quasi-judicial capacity, and providing evidence should be sworn in because you're in a quasi-judicial capacity. As far as their testimony, should be sworn in. The staff is entitled to question the applicant. The staff is entitled to question the applicant, the representative. You're entitled to question the applicant. Members of the public are also entitled to ask questions. Members of the public are also entitled to ask questions of the staff. Their members of the public are entitled to ask questions of the staff. Should any member of the public testify, should any member of the public, when you get to the public hearing, testify, they're also subject to being asked questions by staff, they're also subject to being asked questions, or by members by staff, by the applicant, or by members of the committee or the council. Testimony is not necessarily considered is competent. Not necessarily, depending on the nature of the testimony. I mean, if somebody says, I don't like it, it's ugly. I mean, if somebody says, I don't like it, it's ugly. If someone says, they're entitled to have that opinion. As to some, if someone says, as to some planning kind of specific issue kind of raised, for instance, by staff. Specific issue or by the applicant that's raised, for instance, by staff, they may or may not, depending on who is testifying, they may or may not, depending on who is testifying, and what competent, substantial evidence that may or may not be considered competent, substantial evidence, opinion based on that particular evidence. That just depends. An opinion based on that particular evidence. The question that is asked by Council Member Dr. Lightfoot Ward, what are you here for? Is Dr. Lightfoot Ward asked, what are you here for? To approve your ask a site plan. To approve this project requires site plan approval. This project staff requires site plan approval. Tells you whether it's in conformance with village regulations. Whether it's in conformance with village regulations. The staff's opinion is, again, that is evidence before you, because the staff's opinion is, again, that is evidence before you, planning expertise. Report is based on their planning expertise. And on your own, based on judgment and the evidence presented before you, judge decide whether or not evidence presented the site plan. It also must whether or not you're going to approve the site plan. By village council. It also must be approved. But typically, by village council, hearing is held. But typically, planning and zoning, the public hearing is held. It's not necessarily planning and zoning at the village council, but it does take a village council vote in order to at the village council. But it does take a village council vote in order to approve whatever is approved by the committee.
It does not. It's a lot of words, but it does not. I did not hear an affirmative that it does not. I did not hear an affirmative that I'm trying to hear. I'm waiting on. I did not hear what I'm trying to hear. And what our distinguished guest did was simply say, I got some pictures for you. Our distinguished guest I'm ready to go. Simply say, I got some pictures. I need to know, are we in a state of readiness? Pictures, I'm ready to go.
Good evening,
I
Council.
need to know, are we in a state of readiness?
Good evening, Council. I wanted to address your question whether or not we're prepared. Staff is prepared to give a recommendation to the Council. Staff is prepared to give a recommendation, as the Attorney mentioned, whether or not this is compatible, as the Attorney mentioned, not only with the code, this is compatible with the code requirements, but not only with the code look and feel, which is what the design guidelines, but also compatible with the village submitted look and feel, which is what the design guidelines staff is ready. We have been working with the applicant. Staff is ready. Come up with the design that they want to be approved. Have come up with the design that they want that to be approved. And we submit to you. It does meet the requirements of the code, but it's not compatible with the look and feel. It does meet the requirements of the code, design guidelines, but it's not compatible with the look and feel of the village based on the design guidelines. Does that answer your question? Approved.
Yes, it does.
Does that answer your question?
Don't go away, though.
I have an additional, just comment on that. I have an additional, just because you guys have, Suburbia has done the work of kind of vetting out the design standards, and they're done the work of kind of vetting out the design standards, and they're the professionals on this. So I am not a planner or a zoner. Definitely so Camila, but I trust your planner or zoner. Whether or not Camila, I trust your opinion with our design standards, and whether this is something that should be approved as with our design standards, and whether this is something that should be approved put forth. And it appears as though applicant, the recommendations that you've put forth, you know, in the ways in which this is not. I don't want to assume that. You do know in the ways in which this is not compliant.
We've been took her recommendations, I took her recommendations.
Okay, and the ones that you brought forward, especially as it relates to the windows and other things you guys are willing to rework, especially as it relates to the windows and other things you guys are willing to rework.
We add more window openings, we remove fences.
Excuse me, if I may.
Sure.
I've been discussing this with Camila actually prior to, I've been discussing this with Camila actually prior to a few weeks ago, when she told me there was an applicant for that particular property. Now, as she just mentioned, these surrenders or whatever it is, as she just mentioned, we have here, these surrenders or whatever it is, surrenders that we have here, they don't have. There's no any changes to the facade. As far as I see, there's no any changes to the facade. The only changes is 87 or actually on the back of the house, North Miami Avenue, which it looks really nice. Which that could be accomplished to one of the really nice house, because I don't see that could be more accomplished any change of windows or of the house. Because I don't see that was recommended from any change of windows or anything like that that was recommended from the urban planner.
Actually, the only rendering in the house that set that didn't change. It was the back of we added two windows. The front on the west facade we added two windows. We added then on the 3 windows. In the first level there was no windows at all. We added the existing house in the first level. There was no windows at all. The existing house have 3 windows in the first level. The existing house have 3 windows in the first level as well, and then in the second level we just have 3 windows in the first level as well. On the south facade, we have the original window on the south facade. The original window house. Now we have 2 windows.
Council,
we
if I
have
may-
now we have 2 windows.
I'd like to make two clarifications, one which is general and one that is specific about this application. One which is general. The first one is that we are going with 2 different documents. The first one is the zoning. The first one is that we are going with 2 different documents. The second one is the design guidelines, which is legal, which are not. The second one is the design guidelines, not legislative, which are not. They are guidelines. We put those together in order to have better communication guidelines between the applicant. We put those together in order to have better communication, so that we could speak between the applicant and us, some consensus about the different terminology and the different ways that the village wants to. Some consensus about the different terminology and the different ways that the village wants to. A cohesive look. So that's my general comment. A look. So we have to abide by what's legal, which is the zoning, and that's why there's a recommendation. We have to abide by what's legal, which is the zoning, and that's why there's a recommendation on the design guidelines, which are some conditions legal, but the conditions are based on the design guidelines, weigh in whether or not this application. Now I'm going to this weigh in whether or not this application. Now I'm going to this into the specific in whether this application meets those guidelines or they at least comes close those guidelines to the look and feel that those guidelines provide. Comes close with regards to this application guidelines provide. We are most with regards to this application, those facades that face the street. We are most concerned happens in the inside of the lot that face the street. Doesn't affect the look and feel of the village. Lot really doesn't. We feel affect the look and feel of the village about the type of windows that are, and the guidelines are very clear about the type of windows that are consistent with the vertical. They have a certain proportion. Homes and more than anything, vertical. They have a certain proportion about the types of windows. More than anything, like them or not. Because we can really matter about there is a responsibility, whether you like them or not. It doesn't really matter. There is a responsibility into the street for safety. Houses to and that's the reason why certain windows are safety in a certain way. If you look at the front facade, and that's the reason why certain windows are a very narrow window. If you look at the front facade, that's fine. You'll see a very tall, narrow window, very horizontal window way up high. A very tall window. There's no way that you can see from the inside out. Window way up high. Looking from the inside out. There's no way that you can see from the inside out. Again, because every home, looking from the inside out is important. Every villager in every home has a responsibility towards the street. As much as the village has a responsibility towards the street, private as much as the village has a responsibility. And again, that's the root of why there's a recommendation for a certain amount of openings. There was another application last year. There's a recommendation for a certain amount of openings. There was another application last year that was constructed with a very familiar wall with the new building very close to that house with a very blank wall. Close to the house. You know, it's very close to that house. There's no month that comes by that I don't hear why was that approved. And that comes by that the reason why the guidelines were put in place, so that we could have this the reason why the guidelines were put in place, so that we could have this communication with the applicant as well as with you.
And we are more than willing to listen. And I don't have an issue to accommodate the design to meet those guidelines. I don't have an issue. There was a reason to accommodate the design to meet those guidelines. There was a reason for busy street that design intent. The owner is concerned about being very busy street. We remove and the fence. The owner is concerned about being exposed at the house. Since we remove that being said, the fence. There's no fence at all at the house. After that being said, with the client, I'm pretty sure he's going to be open to accommodate with the client. I'm pretty sure he's going to be open to accommodate any.
So the options that you have in front of you is either approve it so that there can be some changes between now and the council, approve it so that there can be some bring it back to the now and the council.
It looks
or
like you guys
bring
are,
it back to the next
we're at
P&Z.
the right point, which
It
is,
looks
you
like
know
you guys
exactly
are-
what it is that you need from the applicant, you know exactly what it is and the applicant is willing from the applicant towards accommodating those requests. With this design and the applicant is willing to work towards accommodating those requests. So, go ahead, Councilwoman. I feel okay about it. Like, go ahead, Councilwoman.
I have an unreadiness.
Like the word. Okay.
I have an unreadiness.
Okay.
When somebody came into this village. I remember. And they wanted to put a rail. Somebody came into this village. And they wanted to put a rail cargo thing. Train. To look at it, it was all great. To look at it, it was all, our planner said, great. This is a, but when railroad container, this is a decorated railroad container. That's when I began to hear things differently. What I'm hearing now, you come to this place. What I'm hearing now, you come to this place, hit some spots, and now you're still having to deal with a window, hit some spots. What else is wrong? That dealt with windows looking out. What else is wrong? Now you gotta go back, and now you want me, us, to agree. Now you gotta go back, and now you want me, us, when the design is already still flawed, and that's what we're windows, when the design is already still flawed, and that's what, that's just my opinion. I have a question. If we go ahead and approve the site plan, I have a question. If we go ahead and approve the site plan with the caveats that these items need to be, if the applicant at a future time says, no, these are the windows I'm gonna do, if the applicant at a future time says, no, these are the windows I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do 3 windows,
approval or
that's it. Can
denial
they
is a
move
recommendation
forward
from
with that?
this committee to
either
the council.
approval
So
or
either
denial is
one
a
will move
recommendation
to the
from
council.
this committee
The
to
only
the
way that
council.
we
So
either
will
one will
stay
move to the
come back
council.
to
The only way that
if you
we
table it,
will
in which
stay
case it will have
and
to
come
come
back
back
to
to this committee.
PZAB is if you table it, in which case it will have to come back to
Go
this
ahead,
committee.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Mr. Attorney.
That was gonna be
Go
my-
ahead.
Let me just add one other
Mr. Attorney.
option.
Let me
that,
just add one
was not pointed
other
out. Option that
certainly
was not pointed out. Plus Urbia is
correct when they
certainly
say that
Plus Urbia
can
is correct
approve
when
the
they
item
say that
at P&Z
can
approve
and it
the
goes
item
to the council.
at P&Z,
If you reject
and it goes to the council.
deny the item, it does
If
go to
you
the
reject-
council regardless, because this is
deny the
merely
item,
a
it does go to the
recommendation,
council
but regardless, because this is merely, you're all sitting here, a recommendation, but you're all sitting here.
it does not necessarily,
But if you table it,
it does
have
not
to wait
necessarily,
until May.
if you table it,
That's the next
have to wait
regularly
until
scheduled
May.
meeting. But just be aware.
That's the next
regularly scheduled
the mayor,
meeting. But just be
the
aware
chair,
that
members,
the mayor
can certainly
the
call
chair
a special meeting
members
of P&Z
can
sooner
certainly
than
call a
60
special
days.
meeting
If
of
it's your
P&Z
desire
sooner than
to have
60
it
days,
in a more final
if it's
form
your
before you
desire
act on
to
it,
have it in
that does not
a more final
necessarily
form
mean
before
it
you
can't be
act on
heard
it
that does
until
not
the next
necessarily
regularly
mean it
scheduled
can't be
P&Z
heard
meeting.
I'm not
until
suggesting
the next
that,
regularly scheduled
but I want you to
P&Z meeting.
understand what all of
I'm
your
not
options
suggesting
are.
that, and that is one of
But
them.
I want you to understand what all of your options are.
Madam Chair,
And that is one
Mayor,
of them.
real quickly. So,
Madam
for Serbia, so the staff, the designer
So,
staff, they're recommending approval
for
with
Serbia,
conditions.
so
the staff,
Okay.
the designer staff,
If
they're
we
recommending
were to
approval with
pass
conditions.
this, let's say tonight, and
Okay.
say, okay, we
If
pass
we
approval
were
with
to
conditions,
pass this, let's say
it has to be
tonight,
passed to
and
the
say,
full
okay,
council
we
meeting.
pass
Now,
approval with conditions.
it has to be
then
passed
could
to
be
the
brought
full
up in the
council
March
meeting.
full council meeting, let's
Now,
say, for example.
when it's brought up in the
then it
March
could be
full
brought up in
council
the March
meeting,
full council
if
meeting,
they
let's
haven't
say,
met
for
the
example.
conditions,
When it's brought up in the March
we
full
can look at
council
it and
meeting,
say, if they haven't met the
like at
conditions,
the March full council meeting, I can say, hey,
we can look at it and
Juan
say,
and Camilla, have they
like,
met the
at the March
the
full
five
council meeting, I can
conditions?
say, hey,
And they could say,
Juan
no,
and
they haven't met
Camilla,
them yet.
have they met the
And we could
the
say, well,
five
we're not going to
conditions?
approve it yet.
And they could say,
And
no,
then
they
can
haven't
move it
met
till
them yet.
April full
And we could
council
say, well,
meeting.
we're not going to approve it yet.
With that
And
being
then they can move it till
said,
April
just
full
to-
council
Thank
meeting.
you for
Yes,
illuminating
so,
on that. With that being said, thank you for
I
illuminating
really
on
don't
that.
have that big of a trepidation
I-
saying,
I
hey,
really don't
we can move
have
this to the full
that big of a
council
trepidation
meeting,
saying,
and
hey,
hopefully by that time,
we can move this to
you
the
guys
full council
have
meeting, added the
and
items
hopefully
that
by
will
that time,
bring the
you
property
guys have
under conformance
added
with the
the
design
items
standards that will
as well.
bring the property
but
under
that is
conformance
my
with the design
stance on it.
standards as
Councilwoman
well.
Lightfoot Ward, but that is my stance on it.
What is your
Councilwoman Lightfoot
desired
Ward,
outcome?
To table the item until we can.
What is your desired outcome?
If the table the item until we can. They can't get it done by the time the council votes. All we're doing is. They can't get it done by the time the council votes. I'm trying not to rush anything that deals with item through. I'm trying not to rush anything that deals with. Table the item. It should not. How we look here. According to these conditions. Table the item. It should not be before us. According to. We should not have to guess if they'll meet before us. We should not have to guess. Come 2 weeks from now, we have a full. We should not feel rushed. We should not feel that come 2 weeks from now, we have a full. We should already have it done. We should not feel that and know that it's concrete. We should already have it before moving forth and know that it's concrete before moving forth. There's nothing wrong with table until more satisfaction. There's nothing wrong with tabling it until more satisfaction. There's nothing wrong with that. This is what has happened in the past. There's nothing wrong with that. We're so busy trying to get it out of committee in the past. That it comes to council. We're so busy trying to get it out of committee. Then we spend 2.5 hours trying to decide whether it should go forward or not. Then we spend 2.5 hours trying to decide whether it should go forward or not. Those things. But I'm saying this can be done. This was too easy. Do those things that can be done. Yes, I have a background in city management. Yes, I'm familiar with doing plans. Yes, I have a background in city management. I'm very familiar with doing how it should come through committee. Yes, before it gets to council. I'm very familiar with because what we spend in council committee is what we should have been doing in committee. Because what we spend in council, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
I can take that
I can take that concern.
I have a question for the applicant. Do you think realistically? I have a question for the applicant.
Rework your plans in a
Do you think
meaningful way?
realistically, by the time that we
rework your plans in a meaningful way, which would be
by the time that we
meet at the next council meeting, which would be, what was the date of the next council meeting?
March 23rd. Before you answer that question, just recognizing, Mr. March 23rd. Before
Yes,
you answer that question, just recognizing,
I just consulted
Mr.
with the
Attorney.
clerk. Yes, you should also be aware. I just consulted with the clerk. That regardless of, you should also be aware, treat it tonight, that what you do with it. Regardless of how you it is treat not it tonight and what you do with it, that it is not it could be on the March council agenda. It could be on the March council agenda,
Okay, so
and
that
the
pushes
clerk
it
has
back.
to place it in, it has to be advertised.
Okay,
I
so that
think the
pushes
clerk
it
has
back.
to place it in, it has to be advertised. We're right on the edge of already missing the March council meeting. We're right on the edge of already likely it could be the March council meeting, and it's not that likely it could be advertised in time. The soonest, so regardless of what you do, kind of a mood issue, likely the soonest April, regardless of what you do, which would likely that you had April council if it was your choice, which would mean that you had suggesting it's your discretion. If it was your choice, based on what you I'm not suggesting it's your discretion. If you based on what you hear, you certainly. If you table, would have the ability to call, you certainly, a special P and Z would have the ability to call in sufficient special P and Z to be able to meet the advertising sufficient time for the April to be able to meet the advertising got plenty of time for the April council meeting.
Thank you for
You've
that.
got plenty of time.
So with that being said, and thank you for the addition. Thank you for that. So with that being said, and thank you for the addition, how long do you think it would take you in a form that would bring this address some of the concerns in a form that would
we are
address
more
some of
than
the
confident that
concerns
we can get it
that
done.
have been brought up?
I just want to be, we are more than confident that we can get it done. I just want to be from Camila clear and from the committee, because in terms of zoning and their team, we comply. In terms of zoning, comply. The issue is with the code. The design intent or the design guidelines of the community, the design intent or the design guidelines of the community.
Apart from the wall,
I just want to be
wall
clear.
that is way too tall. Apart from the wall, zoning, the wall
you
that
comply
is
with
way
zoning,
too tall
absolutely.
but it's the zoning also includes
You comply with zoning,
a compatibility with the zoning also includes a compatibility is what is captured in the design guidelines. That compatibility is what is captured in the design guidelines you've looked at, as you've designed this. I would assume you've read and you've looked at, as you've designed this. We're willing to work with you to make sure that this building, if you're willing, we're willing to work with you to make sure that this building is this village better suited for, and it's really up to you whether or not you can submit in time. As the attorney mentioned, it's really up to you whether or not you can submit the time of the council. Attorney mentioned it's not about meeting also to you the time of the council. It's having it also to you
No,
with short time
that's,
to review.
yeah, I'm more than
So
confident that it can be done. No,
it's short time.
that's,
Plenty of
time from my end. I'm more than confident that it can be done. I just want to be plenty of time from my end. Time is limited. I just want to be very clear on time is limited goals. I just want to be very clear on the goals. I mean, I've been in communication with Camila, so
I'll make
I
it
don't
very
think that's
plain
an
and
issue.
simple.
I mean, I've been in
Just
communication
so
with
that we're all
Camila,
on the
so
same- I'll make
I
it
don't
very
think that's
plain
an
and
issue.
simple. There's no building that I know in El Portal that
just
looks
so
like this. We're all on the same page. And it's about
There's no
compatibility. building that I know in El Portal that looks like this. You know,
Mhm.
it's like, and it's about compatibility. Making sure that it fits within the context. That's, and making sure that the neighbors that it fits within the context. Residents are making sure that the neighbors what is built next to them. Residents to protect their own values of their home. What is built next to them. That's to protect their own values of their homes. So it's
No,
it's-
and
that-
like I
that's
say,
essentially why this is.
we're willing to work with you guys to
like
get
I
where
say,
we're supposed to be.
and,
We're
you know,
willing to
we
work with you
respect the
guys to
community,
get
of
where we're
course.
supposed to be, and, you know, we
Whatever
respect the
changes needs
community,
to be
of
done
course, to achieve that goal. We're willing to do it.
Whatever
and
changes
we-
needs
we-
to be
we can
done
accommodate
to achieve
in
that
the
goal.
time. We're willing to do it, and we can
Madam
accommodate
Chair,
Nickerson?
if I may.
the time.
It seems that, you know, there's some
Madam Chair,
uneasiness
if I may.
about this, because we're going back and forth.
It seems
that, you know, there's some
that
uneasiness
what
about
we
this, because we're
could
going back
do
and forth.
is,
What we should probably
I
do is
think
table
that
it.
what
And
we
then if
could
we need
do
to pick it up
is,
at,
we
you know, a
should probably do
special
is table it.
P&Z meeting.
And then
we
if we need to pick it up
if we
at,
have to,
you know, a special
P&Z meeting.
because of
we can do a special
advertisement,
P&Z meeting
Madam
if we
Clerk,
have
correct me
to.
if I'm wrong, because of advertisement, this
because
won't
of
make
advertisement,
probably the
Madam
March
Clerk,
Council
correct me if I'm
meeting.
wrong, because
The
the advertisement has
this
to be
won't make
how many
probably
days?
the March Council meeting.
But 10
The
days, but
advertisement
also
has
on
to
top of
be
that.
how many days?
For,
But 10 days, but
extra-
also on top of that.
to get it in,
it
just
gives me,
for,
yeah, I have to have
isn't
from
it
3 to
for
4 days.
extra
I have to
like
get
three
it
to
to
four
get
to
it
get
in,
it
it
in?
gives me,
Yeah.
yeah, I have to have from 3 to 4 days.
Like
I have to
so,
get it
Madam
in.
Chair, I think that if it's not going to make the March Council meeting regardless, so Madam Chair, I think that if it's not going to make the March Council meeting regardless, we should table it. Let them go back, conversate with the design staff. Then we can bring this back either at a special P&Z meeting. We can bring this back if it's not back by May. At a special P&Z meeting, if we have to. If it's not back by May, that's the next group of meetings anyway.
On that? Okay.
Oh,
It's
so-
just that, Councilman Perrella, do you have
No,
something?
it's
Okay,
okay,
on that?
other than, I don't know, I see that the owner of the property, or, I don't know, I see that the owner of the property, or.
We're gonna open it to the public afterwards.
Open it to the
I
public so
do
we
wanna
can-
We're gonna open it to the public afterwards.
It's gonna be
I
tabled.
do wanna say, table it, I guess,
It's gonna be
I just am
tabled.
reluctant to table it, I guess, because if we send it to like the same outcome is going to have the final
If we send it to
product
council,
of theirs, and we get to decide at that product, hey, of theirs, it's not conforming, and we get to decide at that point. So, hey, I guess I just don't want it, or it is. I just don't want so. I guess I just don't want it to be arbitrary. However, I do understand that there's some trepidation. This to be arbitrary. I'm willing. However, I do understand that there's some trepidation. Open it to the public. So I'm willing to go ahead and open it to the public for comment.
I'm sorry, if we're gonna table
Mr.
it, I
Attorney?
don't think there's.
Just a very quick
Hold on
comment
one
from
second.
the legal perspective.
Attorney?
I just want to be clear.
Just a very
The council
from the
is
legal
not
perspective. I just
want
wanna
to
be
be
clear.
clear. The council is not staff report required to accept the staff report. You can vote the staff report as you see fit, but competent, the staff report evidence before you. It is evidence competent in the record evidence before you. And if it is your decision in the record, for the reasons that are set forth, if it is your decision by our for the reasons that are set forth by our that planning agree that these are concerns, you are well within your rights concerns to accept. You are well within your rights report and recommendation on your own issues. Staff's report and recommendation. It is my opinion issues that, and it is in. Although it is my opinion that issues of compatibility are always a little bit in the eye of the beholder. Issues of compatibility are always a little bit in the eye of the beholder. So. But that's why you have planners that you follow. So I believe that's the recommendation that you follow in accepting you're on solid legal ground in accepting the analysis as they have. And I just want that to be clear on the analysis as they have.
Thank you. And the recommendation is to approve it with the conditions, correct?
Thank you.
Thank you. And the recommendation is to approve it with the conditions, correct? Correct. From Serbia? Councilman Lightfoot, Ward Correct.
Do you still have those
Councilman
trepidations?
Lightfoot,
Ward, is it your position that you'd like to table it? Those trepidations, is it your position that you'd like to table it?
Before I make that move, okay, because I will move, before I make that move, are you certain that they can meet what we need and still be in conformance? That they can meet I heard a lot of words, and still be in conformance. I didn't hear your satisfaction. I heard a lot of that they have even met what needs to be done before it even got here. They have even met what needs to be done before it even got here. Listen, you haven't let us down. Are you satisfied that they can do what they need to do regardless of whether they can meet a deadline for the April meeting? They need to do regardless of whether they can meet a deadline for the April meeting, can or not. Are you satisfied that they will, can meet the conditions?
My apologies, I cannot speak for the applicant. I can tell you that we will work with them. I cannot speak for the applicant. Bring it back to the council, work with them close as the applicant, bring it back to the council, be as close as the applicant, design guidelines and zoning. But we cannot control to the design guidelines and zoning what the applicant submits. We cannot control. All we can do is receive the submittal, which they're within their right. All we can do is receive the submittal and tell you they're within their right to submit opinion whether or not it's conforming to the zoning code and whether it's compatible with the design guidelines. It's conforming to the zoning code and whether it's compatible with the design guidelines. As we said,
Right now, it's not.
we recommend approval with conditions, and those conditions are to come closer. We recommend approval with conditions, and those conditions are to come closer that between now and closer to the design guidelines. As long as they are now and council, and then at council you can decide. As long as they are willing
Like
to
the mayor
play
just said.
ball, and then at council you can decide to deny it.
Like the mayor just
As
said.
to whether, I cannot speak for the
I'm
applicant.
not asking you to do that.
As to
I'm
whether-
asking for people right here. I'm not asking you to do that. I don't want to go people right here round robin on this too much. I don't want to go know that you said too much. They will. I just want to know. This is what they need to do. You said. They've said. They will. We will. Do what you told me. This is what they need to do. They've said, we will do what you told me. I didn't have a problem after that. If it's sorry right there with something as simple as windows after that. How are they going to meet there with something as simple as windows? How are they going to meet the full scope of things? Move the recommendations of our planner and hold that they will do the recommendations of our planner and hold that they will do.
For the record, I'm sorry to interrupt. For the record, I cannot speak for the applicant, so I don't know if they will come closer to compliance. I cannot speak for the applicant, so I don't know if they will recommend.
You've already done your part, which is just let them know what they need to do. You've already done your part, which is just let them know what they need to do. And then you guys hopefully can move ahead and we can all just, move ahead.
I'm a civil engineer.
Oh, sure.
I'm working with my
Excuse me, sir, can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is George.
Excuse me, sir, can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is George. Like I said before, I'm a civil engineer. He's my architect. He's really well-known architect. I'm a civil engineer in the city of Miami. He's really willing to comply in the city of Miami. We are willing to comply with my idea is living here. We like to work with the community. My idea is living here. In order to work with you guys, I need to comply. And in order to work with you guys and with the design that you are proposing, with the zoning and with the design that you are proposing. You asking for my commitment, and like you have my commitment, you asking for work with them to comply. You have my commitment that I'm gonna work with them to comply with the design of the city.
So you're gonna live in the property?
Yeah.
Okay. And I understand the intent of having privacy because it's two main streets. And I understand the intent of having privacy. The design is beautiful, there's no questions about it.
It's just it doesn't fit.
It's, the design is beautiful, there's no questions about it.
It's just it doesn't fit,
as well. But yeah, there's, we wanted to like, but yeah, there's, pay attention to details and try to work with, pay attention to details and try to work with, the Servia to,
Definitely, we have a motion by Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward to, definitely, we have a motion by Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward to, I have seconded that motion. Do I open up to public comment after we take the roll? Seconded that motion. Do I open up to public comment? Does anyone have a comment on the F1 agenda item? Does anyone have a comment on the F1 agenda item? We recognize Councilman North.
We should swear anybody in
We
who's gonna
recognize
testify.
Councilman.
We should swear anybody in who's gonna
That would be
testify.
great. Okay.
Anyone who's
happy
happy
to
to
do
do
that.
that, offer
That would be
testimony,
great.
please
Okay.
raise your right hand.
Anyone
who is
And
going to
he's
offer
probably saying.
testimony, please raise your right hand. I, and state your name. And just say, it should actually be you, sir, and state your name. Owner and the architect. It should actually be you, sir, also the owner and the architect. Okay. I, and state your name. Okay. Do hereby state your name. That the testimony I'm about to give. Do hereby swear. Will be the truth, testimony I'm about to give, and nothing but the truth. Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Witnesses are sworn, so help me God. Thank you.
All right,
Witnesses
go
are
ahead. Could you state your name and address for the record, please? Go ahead.
Yes, Sandra Valencia, 8633
Could you state your name and
Northeast
address for
Miami
the
Court.
record, please?
Yes,
very
Sandra
familiar with the
Valencia,
property, it's very close to
8633
my
Northeast
property.
Miami Court.
And
I'm very
I
familiar with
just
the
wanted
property, it's very
to,
close to my
you
property.
guys,
And I just wanted to,
the design.
you guys,
It's
but,
nothing against you. I like
we mentioned
the house that is on
but,
87 in Miami Court.
we mentioned the
house that
and
is
it's
on
been an
87
eyesore
in Miami
for
Court.
many of us.
And although I
and
love
it's
the
been
owners
an
because they're my
eyesore for
neighbors
many
now
of
and
us.
friends.
And although I love the owners
It's
because they're
really hard to see
my
this
neighbors now and
giant
friends.
white walls on
It's
87.
really
So I
hard
need
to
you
see
to
this
understand that you're
giant
located
white
in
walls
two main
on
streets.
87.
So I need you to
87th
understand that
Street
you're
is
located
Elpertal
in two
Boulevard.
main
So
streets.
it's part of like it's the
87th
main
Street
of
is
our
Elpertal
city.
Boulevard.
You know what
So
I
it's
mean?
part
And
of
then
like it's the
also you have
main
North
street
Miami
of
Avenue,
our city,
which
you know
has
what I
a
mean?
ton
And
of
then
traffic.
also you have North Miami Avenue.
I
which has a
understand.
ton of
I do
traffic.
understand, but more than anything, it's
I
iconic.
understand.
You
I
know,
do
you
understand,
are
but
located
more
in an
than
iconic
anything,
place for the
it's
community. So
iconic.
you cannot
You know,
just bring
you are
something
located in an
that's
iconic place
completely
for the
nothing
community.
to
So
do
you
with
cannot
the
just bring
language
something
of our community. I'm not trying to get you to change the language of our community.
But
I'm not
definitely
trying to
just
get you to
tiny
change
little
completely the design.
windows had nothing to
But
do, and
definitely
we don't
just
want to see
tiny
another
little
on the
windows had
same
nothing
on the
to
same
do,
street.
and
We don't want to see another
super modern structure that has nothing to do with the language
super
modern structure that has nothing
the one
to
on
do with the
87 in
language
Miami
that
Court
we and
happened
that's
before Plus Serbia
unfortunately
beautiful
the one on
developed this
87 in
beautiful
Miami Court
comprehensive
happened before Plus
plan
Serbia created this beautiful
that I
developed this
hope
beautiful
that you can actually
comprehensive
just help us into
plan.
getting to
That
you know,
I
something
hope
similar.
that
I know
you
it's
can
modern,
actually
but
just help us into
it's
getting
not like
to,
my house
you
is
know, something
1948,
similar.
so
I know
it's
it's modern,
Creole, but
it doesn't matter.
it's not like my house is
that you are in an
1948, so it's
iconic
Creole, but it doesn't matter. I just want you to be aware that you are in an iconic space or location for our city. That's all.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have, from the public, thank you for the comment that they would like to share at this time? Does anyone else have, from the public, I'll go ahead and close the conversation to the public. And I'll go ahead and close the conversation to the public and open it back up to the committee members so that we can go ahead and.
Juan, I do have a question for you.
Which is
So
to
when
move
you're
this.
talking about fencing, is that the one facing North Miami Avenue? When I see fencing, is that the one facing North Miami Avenue? When I see where I see the AC unit is actually per se, and it's pretty much the property wall.
I wish we could share a screen so we could look at it together.
Right.
There is a wall, I wish we could share a screen so we could look at it together.
Right.
There is a wall, a 6-foot wall, and facing 87th. And Camila, who has control.
It's the wall extends beyond the building line facing 87th. The wall extends beyond the building line facing 87th. The code doesn't allow it. And that's, so it's just primary or secondary.
And but I see the AC unit is actually located. But I see the AC unit is actually located from the fence goes, you know, line or from the property wall line or property the wall.
These are the things that we will work with the applicant to make sure that you have a better. These are the things that we will work with the applicant to make sure that you have a better.
Okay, so are we comfortable? Councilperson. Okay, so are we comfortable? Councilperson.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you.
So, I think I can cut to kind of the quick of what I think I can cut to kind of the quick of what clearly in terms of the larger discussion here is an additional window is needed. Clearly in terms of we need to adjust where the window fences are in the heights. We can accommodate we need to adjust where the fences are in the heights. We had an applicant that was tabled for about a year. That it was almost a full year for about a year. Time that they initially presented almost a full year to the time that they initially presented site plan. And that building, to the time that it was approved. Just to give you an idea, and that building referencing the 87th Street. Just to give you an idea, because I know that people were referencing the 87th Street. But this other one is a little bit more of this case where the design of it was. But this other one is a little bit more of this case where taller structure. The design of it was very few windows on one side. It was a taller structure. Sound. There were very few windows on one side. But it created the effect, I think, of what Juan from Pluserbia is talking about. Created the effect, I think, of what Juan. It created an effect of shutting that property off in terms of from everything else. It created an effect of shutting that property off in terms of those issues of and so facade, in terms of those issues, the windows, facade. There's a lot of data that does show that if the occupants have the ability to see outside, there's a lot of data that does show that if the occupants have the ability to see outside, it does make the community safer. But the other is truly comes down to the architectural style. So I don't want to beat around the bush on this. To the architectural style. So I don't want to beat around the bush on this. But she was just saying, is that what the resident is, but she was just saying, said, if you go through El Portal, you don't really see any other building. Had said, if you go through El Portal, you don't really see that are similar buildings close, right? Looks like this. And that could be a couple that are similar, a good selling point because it makes it unique, and that could be a very so the concern, a good selling point because it makes the committee, right, and then also from the residents. So the concern from the residents, that's something the committee, and then also from the residents, is that truly from the residents, that's something that really needs to be understood. Is that a significant concern from the residents? End up with the radical departure from the existing architecture radical departure from. I'm also cautious not to go completely on renderings, so because this is I'm also cautious not to go completely on renderings. Correct. Because this is an artist rendering, right? But in that, I mean, it looks like a great deal of attention and care was given. It looks like a great deal of design of this. Architectural design of this. Care was given to the design of this. The architectural hurried or sloppy or anything like that. It really has more to do with lines, hurried or sloppy or anything like that. And so it really has more to do with lines. They had said that the loss of in the notes from Pluserbia, they had said that the loss of the hip roof. That honestly significantly changes the silhouette. That honestly significantly changes the silhouette, right? So I try not to go too much off of the rendering. So look at the plans. I think, and so I try not to go too much off zero lot. And look, there's a lot of yard there. There'll be a ton of green space. It's not like it's a zero lot. I think there's a lot of yard there. That is wonderful. There'll be a ton of green space. I just don't want to beat around the bush on this. That is wonderful. Specifically that I think I just don't want to beat around the bush on this and say specifically that I think Dr. Lightfoot Ward is here is that because of the lines, right? So yes, you can add a window because of the lines, look right a little less. So yes, a little less solid window and have it. But I think the larger concern is do the. But I think the larger concern is do the lines, do the silhouette of this, too stark, building, and it becomes as people are passing through distraction. If it's too stark, then it becomes from the point of view of the residents, distraction, right, can be an issue. Then from the point of view of the residents, this is now can be an issue. People coming into El Portal and knowing that they're in El Portal. Instead of people coming into El Portal and knowing that they're in El Portal, part of that line gets blurred, convoluted to that. So that is a larger concern. Ourselves really. So whatever happens tonight, that is a larger concern. So to try and so whatever happens tonight, I would either in an explanation and defense to try and address that, either in an explanation and defense of why we've done this to make it look, or an adjustment to say okay, we've done this to make it look. That's all I want to say is cut to the other structures in the village. Some of this is that's all I want to say is cut to that point of as illustrated in the comments regarding the roof, and the silhouette. So as illustrated in the comments, so I'll just say that. So I might be Dr. Lightfoot Ward's initial. So I'll just say that. So I might be. The reason I bring up that property if they were tabled for a year is to say if we table this through May, right? If they were tabled for a year is to say if we table this through May, right? We've already made at least one person wait a year. Not to get your heart down because we've already made at least one person wait a year. There does need to be a great deal of caution, and so from the committee, there does need to be a great deal of caution from the committee because we are going to begin seeing through these plans more because we are going to begin seeing. Gentrification of this neighborhood as the gentrification of this neighborhood, put it as blunt as possible. That's what's going to happen. A lot of these older structures, as possible, for many reasons, that's what's going to happen. A lot of these older structures, right, for many reasons, that reconfiguration are going to be what's going to happen reconfigured, right? You know, and in that reconfiguration, as residents, what's going to happen to so great. A lot of that has to do with, as residents believe, has always made El so great. A lot of that has to do with architectural styles. So a specific grouping of.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Councilman Urban.
Thank you.
So
Thank
we
you.
have a
Not a
motion
problem.
out
Thank you so much,
to
Councilman
move
Urban.
this to the
Thank you.
council. So
Thank
we
you.
have a motion
Attorney
out
Geller.
to move this to the.
Thank you,
council.
Madam Chair. Before you vote, I
Attorney Geller.
just, now that everyone
Thank you,
was
Madam
sworn,
Chair. Before you
it
vote,
would
I
be
just,
appropriate
before
now
you
that
vote to have
everyone was
the
sworn,
owner,
it would be appropriate before you vote
on the
to
record,
have the owner
accept the conditions that were
specifically
suggested
on the
by,
record
accept the
the conditions
conditions
that were suggested by
Okay.
and put
So the
forward
question
by
is
Plus
for
Urban.
the owner, which I believe
Okay.
is. So the
Thank you.
question is for the owner.
Just
which I
want to
believe
have
is.
you say on the record that you
Thank
do accept the conditions.
Just want to have
That
you
Laservia has
say
been
on the
set
record that you do
I'm
accept
sorry,
the
I couldn't-
conditions that
I do
Laservia has
accept
been
the
set for.
conditions.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you so much.
I do
Now we can
accept
go ahead
the
and
conditions.
vote on the motion.
Thank
Are
you,
we
Madam
just doing a
Chair.
voice
Voice
or
or
now
roll
we
call?
can go ahead and
Roll
vote
call.
on the
Okay.
motion. Are we just doing a voice or
Can
roll
you
call?
clar-
The motion
clarify what-
is to
Okay.
move agenda item
Can you
F1.
clarify
The motion
what-
is to
87th
move
Street addition site plan
agenda
review
item
to the
F1 for
council.
1
Is
Northeast
it to move
87th
it
Street
or to
addition
table?
site plan review.
To move it.
To the
We moved and
council.
seconded.
Is it
Okay.
to
To
move it or
April,
to
Madam
table?
Chair, to April
To
council meeting.
move.
To the
We
April
moved and
council.
seconded.
Okay.
To April, Madam Chair, to April council meeting.
To the April council meeting.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward. Roll call.
Roll call.
Member Perella. Roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward. Member Nickerson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Perella. Urban.
Yes.
Member Nickerson.
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Motion
Yes.
passes 5-0. Chair Martin.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion
Okay.
passes 5-0.
We're moving on to item number
Okay.
F2.
Thank
So
you.
that- We're moving on
Uh,
to item number 8650
F2.
Northeast Miami Court Addition Site Plan
Uh,
Review.
8650
If I could
Northeast
have
Miami
the
Court
applicant
Addition
step up,
Site
please.
Plan
Review. If I could have the applicant step up, please. Do we have the applicant for 8650? Yes. Okay, awesome. Do we have the applicant for 8650? Okay, awesome. Okay. Okay. So are we all ready to proceed?
We still have a meeting going
So
on.
are we, okay?
We
Are we
still have
all
a-
ready to proceed?
We still have a meeting going on.
Councilman Perella?
Okay?
We're ready to do
We're ready.
F2, you guys? We're ready
We're
to do
ready.
F2?
We're
ready to do
We're ready. If
F2,
we can
you
have the
guys? We're ready to do
applicant-
F2?
If we can have
We're
the
ready.
applicant up,
If we
please.
can have the applicant up.
If we can have the applicant up, please. Awesome. Do we do the applicant? Do we do the applicant?
So what we want to do is we want to start with
Do we do
the,
the Do we do the applicant?
so what we want to do is we want to start with the,
Oh, it's beautiful. Camila. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, we're ready. Camila, if you can go ahead and lead us on item number F2. Okay, we're ready. The recommendation. If you can go ahead and lead us on item number F2. With the
Absolutely.
recommendations.
This
Read
application.
F2. Read the address of
The address of-
F2. Read
Oh.
the item.
F2, 8650
F2,
Northeast
read the
Miami
address of-
Court
F2, read the
Addition.
address.
Site
F2,
plan review.
8650
Yes,
Northeast
this
Miami Court
application is similar
Addition
to the
Site Plan
previous
Review.
one in that the applicant
application is
is
similar
requesting
to
a
the
site plan
previous
review
one in
because
that
the application, the addition that they are proposing
is requesting a
is,
site plan review because
um,
the application, the
at
addition
least
that they are proposing
greater than
is
at least 50%
of the existing
at
building,
least
and that's why
greater
they're
than
presenting
at least
it to
50%
planning
of the
and zoning
existing
and going to
building,
council.
and that's why
And
they're
your
presenting
recommendation,
it to
please.
planning and
Your
zoning and
recommendation
going to
is
council.
also approval
And your
with
recommendation,
conditions.
Your recommendation is
but
also
in our
approval
findings
with
this-
conditions.
This proposed in our findings, plan for the addition is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the zoning regulations. Plan for the addition therefore, the conditions are only to address and with the zoning regulations. Any new comments. Therefore, the conditions are only to address in this committee meeting any new comments that may arise in this and to be in conformance with the in this committee meeting drawings submitted and any subsequent and to be in conformance with the drawings
And for the
submitted
applicant,
and any
you
subsequent
guys are
revisions.
aware of the recommendation
And
and
for the
willing to
applicant,
comply
you
or
guys are
address anything that might be
aware of
brought
the
up
recommendation
within
and
willing
this-
to comply
within
or
reason, within
address
this,
anything that might be brought up
How are
within
you?
this.
Good
Could you
evening,
state your
everybody.
name and address? Committee meeting?
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Could you state your name and address?
Good evening, everybody. We are trying to do addition from my house. We are trying to do addition from family. Small house, growing family. We are looking for get in addition to small house in this moment. We are looking for get in to get a better style of life. Small house kids growing and they need their own space. To get a better style of life, that's kids growing and they need most important space for us. So that's in order to do this addition. For us. Regarding the project, do this addition. We are going to regarding the project in contact. We are going to we are being in contact with complain especially with to try to follow all the guidelines regarding with a space all the guidelines to keep the green areas, keep the design, keep the style of the green areas, keep the design, keep the style of our neighbors, wherever it is now the house. Much the extension is gonna wherever it is now the house. Copy whatever the extension is gonna now complete and copy whatever regarding Camila. You says regarding Camila, you approve it, but with condition. The condition is follow the plans. You approve it, but the condition, the condition is follow the plans. We have all the set ready. The planner, the plans, the architect draw it. We have all the set ready, and it's gonna stay like that. It's not gonna be more changes on that. I don't think so. So the plans is gonna be whatever it is now. We are ready to hit the city as soon as we got the whatever it is now. We are ready to hit the city as soon as we got the
I'll go ahead and
so
open
we
it
are
up
not
to the
changing.
the committee to see whether or not you guys have any
I'll go ahead
comments
and
on this
open it up to
plan.
the count.
Madam Chair, if I
Committee to see whether or not you guys have any comments.
So you're
on
going
this
from
plan.
a one-story to two-story in parts?
No.
So you're going or it's just one story, it's just a high, it's a high ceiling?
No,
Or it's just one story, it's just a high, it's a high
we
ceiling?
are doing the two on the back.
On the back.
Extended the house we are doing the two and going west. Extended the house. So the part going south is the part that facing the street.
I got you.
So that part is going to remain south is the part that facing the street. Pretty much level. So that part is going to remain the same. Then in the back, which is much going toward west, and going to the then back in the back, which is we are going toward west, the ceiling going to the back of the land. In the back, we are going to create the ceiling. Because the reason is family room. In the back, we are going to create a dining area, a family room, kitchen, which is a dining area, more which is oriented, more a little higher family oriented. If you got have a little higher ceiling, if you got family visitors or something like that, you're gonna get higher ceiling.
Yeah, and enjoy more of the sunset light that
higher ceiling.
actually,
Yeah,
and enjoy more of the
So,
sunset light
we
that
are putting some
actually-
windows, kind of,
yeah, that's
and
beautiful.
also, we are putting some windows, kind of, a little extra windows, the back of our patio. We have a nice patio in the back, southwest, which is the back of our patio, and the light have a nice patio in the back, and we wanna enjoy the outdoors, and the light coming from the.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm, if I may. I didn't read the legend. Okay, I'm sorry. So now the roof, what type of, is it flat roof, concrete, flat roof? So now the roof, what type of, is it flat roof, concrete, flat roof, or?
No, it's gonna be,
the tiles and the?
It's concrete roof.
Concrete tile, flat, the tiles and the barrel?
No barrel, flat.
Concrete tile, flat. Or barrel?
No barrel, flat.
Flat, okay.
If you see the garage from the right side, it's the same. If you see the garage from the right side, next to the door, it's still the same. And the second window, first window next to the door is still the same. And the second window is the south addition is the house little window on the left side. And the south addition, we add a few lights next to the window to copy the. We add a few lights next to the window. To the garage door. The two lights give balance next to the design to the garage door. To give balance. Roof is not to slope it. Just a little bit. Roof is not to slope it. just a little bit, the normal. In the back that you can see now, cannot see now is the other part. In the back that you can see, cannot see now is the other part. That's toward the back of the house, which is the ceiling right there, 9.5. That's toward the back of the house, which is the ceiling. We add some windows, and we add some windows. Access to get a better access and to get better view to the park. Access to get a better access and to get better view to the park in the back that we have. Nothing else.
No questions there, please.
Nothing else.
No questions there, please. I'll make a motion to move. I'll make a motion to move to full council.
Please restate your name and address for the record.
8633
Please restate your name and address for the record.
8633 I'm really familiar
Miami
with
Court,
this
Sandra
property,
Valencia.
across the street, basically.
And
I'm
one of
really
the
familiar
things I
with
really
this,
like
with this
about
property,
what they're
across the
doing
street,
with the new
basically.
design is
And
that
one
they
of the
keep in
things
the
I
flare
really like
of
about
what they're
what
doing
we
with the
have
new
already
design is
on
that
that
they
block.
keep in the flare
And
of
I just want to
what
ask
we have already
if that
on
is
that
okay
block.
for you to speak.
And
because
I just want to
tell
ask
why
if
that
that
is
is
okay
okay
for you to speak. Because I
would
want
love
for you to tell the story about how you found this property and what is the plan to have the story about how you found this property and what is the plan to have
not growing family, I
bigger,
hope.
house for
You
the
have
family.
already
Not
a
growing
dog,
family, I
4
hope.
cats,
Jeez.
2 boys.
You have already
So, but anyways,
a dog,
I would like
4
to
cats, just
2
hear
boys.
her story.
So,
because it's
but anyways, I
really
would like to
interesting and
just
and
hear
it's
her
showing
story
in the new
because
design.
it's really
In the new,
well, it's not like
interesting
it's
and
the addition
and it's
that
showing
they're
in the new
creating. So
design.
this is
In the
awesome.
new,
So
well, it's
to-
not
I would love to. the addition that they're creating. So this is awesome. So
My name
to-
is
I would
Juliana
love to.
Collinger. I'm from 8650 Northeast Miami Court. Juliana Collinger. And when I first started to look for houses in Miami Shores, when I first started to look for houses in Miami Shores, I had actually put that was our search. my I was not search looking from anywhere 87th from and there. up. But what happened was we were having a very difficult time finding a house. But what happened was we were having a very difficult time finding a house. I had made numerous offers in Miami Shores. At the end of the day, I was like, and the offers fell through. So at the end of the day, I was like, okay, the minute we opened it up to the further south, this house, the minute we opened it up to the I was like, further south, so I drove around, I liked it, and I'm like, let's go see it. And I was like, and I fell in love with the house. It was really little, but the lot was very big. And I fell in love with the house. It was really little, but the lot was very big. It was like a small cottage. I really liked it only has a 2-bedroom house. It was like a small 1 bathroom. But it only has a 2-bedroom, very small for us. We've been living there for 5 years. So it was very small for us. We've been living there for 5 years. That was always the intention because the lot was very big and to make it big. That was always the intention because the lot was very big. And I wanted to make sure that we kept with the facade we had the space for it. But I wanted to make sure that we kept with the facade of the my husband is actually more modern than me, which I've always liked. He's obviously more modern than me. He's got the architect side. And I know I get it, the architect side, and I know I get it. But I did have to convince him to let's keep the core of the house because I really liked it. Convince him to let's keep the core of the house because I really liked it. And I think it's going to be a nice asset to our street. So I hope that you like it too.
That's awesome.
I think it's going to be
I
a nice
lived in
asset
Miami
to our
Shores
street.
before El Portales. That's awesome. I
So
lived
good
in
choice.
Miami Shores before. So much.
El
So we have a motion and a second. Good choice. And thanks so much. So we have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, before we went a little bit south, and so what was it about El Portal? I want you to tell him a little bit about. We went a little bit south, and he says, I want you to tell him a little bit about. One of you all said you kind of discovered us. What made one of you all said you kind of discovered us. What made you do El Portal?
It's awesomely good to hear. Attorney Geller, you had a comment? It's awesomely good to hear. Attorney Geller, you had a comment?
We would like the applicant quickly before you vote, accept on the record the conditions that have been on the record, the conditions that have been presented by Plus Urbia.
We, Walter Garcia, Juliana Collinger, and the train at serving Walter Garcia, Juliana Collinger, and the train and recommendation to keep of project like and recommendation of going towards the building project like it is.
Sounds good.
Going towards the building.
Let's go ahead and vote on the motion to move this to the. Let's go ahead and vote on the motion meeting to move this to in April. The next council meeting.
Roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Roll call. Member Perrella. Member Lightfoot Ward. Member Nickerson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Member Perrella.
Yes.
Member Nickerson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Erbaum.
Abstain.
Let me say on the record, Vice Mayor Erbaum has asked about the, Vice Mayor Erbaum has asked possibility of recusal because he is very close friends with the applicants. Because he is very close friends for the record was that he is not legally required was that he is not legally required. He has no financial interest in the outcome of the project. In that he has no financial interest. Does not have a conflict of interest. So, however, he actually does not have a conflict of interest. Vice Mayor Erbaum believes, however, because of his close personal friendship, believes that there is an appearance of a close personal friendship he wants to avoid. That there is an appearance of a conflict of interest that he wants to avoid. In this matter, therefore, my opinion himself is permitted to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, and he's indicated the appearance of a conflict of interest. Wants to take advantage of. Indicated that there are some papers that can be filled out. Take advantage of now. There are some papers that can be filled out. They don't need to be done now. To Vice Mayor Erbaum, but it is my opinion because he feels that there's an appearance of a conflict. It is my opinion because you're not allowed to abstain on things. You can't just, you're not allowed to abstain on things, declare something. You can't just, but in this circumstance, based on the facts, you have to declare something. Vice Mayor Erbaum, but in this circumstance, based on the facts, he's correct to feel that he wants to avoid the appearance of a conflict. He's correct to feel that he wants to avoid the appearance of a conflict, and he is therefore permitted to recuse himself on this matter.
Madam Clerk? I'm next.
So you're recusing yourself?
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm next.
And Chair
So
you're
Martin?
recusing yourself?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 and 1 recusal. And Chair Martin?
Okay, we'll move on to agenda
Motion
item
passes
number
4 and 1
F3. Thank you so
Now
much.
that the
We'll move on to agenda item number F3. Thank you so much. Now we'll move on to agenda item number F3. This is an update on the Resilient Streets Agenda item number F3. This is an update on the Resilient Streets Master Plan. I'm assuming Camila, will you be leading us in this? Oh.
Is it really short?
We can have the truncated version.
It's just to show.
Is it really
We
short?
can have the truncated version.
Make sure that you're in agreement.
Perfect.
The direction it's going into, make sure that you're in agreement.
Perfect.
We, in a previous council meeting, in a previous council meeting, the council agreed that we could work on a plan for, the council agreed that we could work on a plan for streets in the village to address resilience. And we're also, we've streets in the village to address resilience. And we're also, we've also taken the opportunity to address safety, and specifically slowing down pedestrians and mobility, specifically Northeast 2nd Avenue and Miami Avenue. In the main streets here we see 2nd Avenue and Miami important statistic to know is that 24% of the land is dedicated to the public right of way. So we want to 24% of the land is dedicated to the public analyze how much of that land can actually be taken back for people and for resilient. Analyze how much of that infrastructure, green infrastructure to help with for resilient the recent infrastructure, green infrastructure to help with. So because of the time, I'm going to skip through flooding that has been occurring in the village. So main streets, 2nd Avenue, I'm going to skip through North Miami Avenue and residential streets, two ways. Main Street, 2nd Avenue, in the very narrow residential streets and residential streets, two ways and avenues in the village, very narrow, many of which do not have sidewalks.
and avenues in the village,
at least 20 feet
many
of
of which do not
asphalt.
have sidewalks.
The most narrow
But
streets
they do have at least 20 feet And,
of asphalt. The most narrow streets
The challenges that Alberta faces, as I said, is flooding. And the challenges that Alberta faces, the most recent FEMA map flooding more areas toward the west are in the most recent FEMA map shows that more areas toward the west are in the flood risk zone. This has been an occurrence this past year, especially we received several. It's been an occurrence this past year, especially we received residents to see what can be done in their properties. Concerns and safety from residents. Of course, people speed what can be done in their properties. Northeast 2nd and North Miami. Of course, people considering that the city of Miami to the south 2nd and North Miami have considering that the city of Miami to the south streets in their jurisdictions have completely different designs also the streets in their jurisdictions redesign their streets can also in line with what their designs are and also incorporate elements of resilience. In line with what so what are these elements of resilience that we're proposing? Incorporate elements of resilience. So what are these elements of resilience that we're focusing mostly on green infrastructure? Green infrastructure focusing mostly on green infrastructure, but are not limited to green infrastructure solutions include green streets with planter boxes on the sidewalks, creating the green bioswales with planter boxes on the sidewalks, which have vegetation or bioswales to help infiltrate water, which have vegetation or permeable pavement to help infiltrate water, and of course keeping permeable pavement where possible. And of course, as well. Keeping and increasing the tree canopy. We looked at some proposals for the streets mentioned previously. We looked at some proposals for the streets mentioned previously. Right now is a 70-foot right of way. Northeast 2nd, and most of right it now is a 70-foot right of way. Asphalt with most of it is 4 travel lanes and 1 turning lane. Asphalt with really wide lanes. 4 travel lanes and 1 turning lane to really wide lanes. When you're in your car and you have such a vast space when you're in your car concerns to hit and you have such a vast space to infrastructure. There are no concerns to hit and speed through. Well, so there's an opportunity to design the street and taking back space. So there's an opportunity to parallel parking as we see here, and taking back extended sidewalks to include parallel parking as we see here. Extended sidewalks to include to collect and infiltrate water. Or potentially even bike lanes to collect and infiltrate water. This is a design showing bike side with parallel parking. This is a design showing bike lanes on either side with showing how the green infrastructure works to collect the water. This is a detail showing how the green infrastructure works to collect the water runoff on the streets and help with stormwater runoff on the streets. Second Avenue, a second option could be up here. That's bike lanes on Second Avenue. A second option on the other side. Bike lanes on for North Miami, which is very similar to Northeast 2nd. The difference is for North Miami, which is very similar to Northeast 2nd. The difference is zoned for commercial. That this one actually will maintain the wide swales that it has, but there's also an opportunity to incorporate parking for swales that it has, but there's also an opportunity to incorporate parking for those. This is one solution where perhaps you include planners within the parallel parking. You take so that adds additional green elements within the parallel parking, water collection. So that adds additional green elements for the other option, water collections. Or the other option could be to have a wider median in the middle, also with green. Could be to have a wider median in the middle, also with green grass or bioswales, with landscape, and if possible, grass or bioswales. If the third types of streets are residential, and these streets already have streets are residential as well. But there is still an opportunity to have more narrow wide swales as well. Narrower, but there is still an opportunity to make them that would also or narrower. One of the proposals that we have is to have a shared bike lane. I believe that residents already use. That we have is to have a shared bike lane. I believe that residents already use, but even taking more space, and it could also accommodate. But even taking more space for parallel parking, which is also a common complaint that we get. Take more space for parallel parking, which is also a common complaint. There's no that we get or concern that there's not enough parking and parking on the swale. There's no that can be accommodated space for parking in a way that does not mean that cars are accommodated in a way that does not mean that cars doesn't help over the swales and this becomes a muddy water that and doesn't help to hold the water mobility. So these designs and help to improve mobility, pedestrian safety. So these designs and that is the goal behind these pedestrian safety and resilience, and that is the goal behind these proposals.
If I may address
That was
the
pretty
council,
fast.
Trying to go
I wanted to add
quickly
a
as
couple of
possible.
things.
So,
So we are doing
That
this
was
at your
pretty fast.
direction. Our goal is to protect the so we are doing this at your direction. Our goal is to protect the idea is to improve. We're looking at all the frontage and the curb appeal of every single home. Again, the idea is to improve mobility, safety, and the curb appeal of every single home from flooding events, and also mobility, safety. This is a draft. It'll be online from flooding events. You guys can take a look at it. This is a draft. It'll be online. You guys can take a look at it. But we will continue working on it, so once you receive it and take a look at it, it'll also be available. We will continue working on it, so once you please give us your comments. Ultimately, the goal is to be able to go to the county. Please give us your comments for Second Avenue, and ultimately the goal is to be able to go to the county that we can ask for Second Avenue and have something. And eventually, when concrete that we can ask, or when there's improvements to the streets, and eventually when closer to the funding's there, and or when there's improvements to the streets, we can get more closer to a more resilient. That's the intent. And so this is not an action item. We just wanted to give you guys. That's the intent. So this is not an action item.
It's beautiful. I definitely support anything that brings more greenery and more beautiful streets to the city. Definitely support anything. Does anyone in the committee have any comment on this item? City. Does anyone in the public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the committee and move on to item number I'll go ahead and bring it back to the committee and move on to item number F4, which is alcoholic beverages, distance restrictions.
All right, so, Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
In my continuous attempt to try to bring as much as possible to the village as far as like to try to bring as much as possible to the village as far as we have and Juan, I know you're going to end up coming back up. Camilla is up here. So we have and Juan, I know you're going to end up coming back up. The way things currently are either way, like the way things currently have things written, I should say. Like the way things currently the way we have currently have things written, I should say. You know, we're just starting to become we're just starting to become a development with the trailer park, with some new news we'll talk about with the trailer park night about the sanctuary. Some new news we'll talk about maybe night about the sanctuary. Being that's the case, and since we never really considered being that's the in case, the past, commercial, since we never really considered the way things in the past, commercial, is, in my opinion, kind of outdated. The way things, and so one of the things that's written, in my opinion, kind of outdated, is that, and so one of the things that's selling alcohol, another business with a certain amount of feet can't be selling alcohol. Another business with a certain amount of feet can't be selling alcohol. Since we're so small. The problem is distance to where if one business is serving alcohol, other businesses the amount of distance to where if one business is serving alcohol, that we're going to be driving away businesses because nobody can serve alcohol. So this is going to be driving away businesses because nobody can serve alcohol. So this is for example, serves alcohol. This is Big Daddy's, which is part of when the trailer park gets serves alcohol gets done. What if there wants to be like trailer park gets what if it's mixed use and it wants to be like a cafe or something like that? What if it's mixed use and it wants to be like a cafe or something like that? The skate park can't do it. They can't do it because it's too close to Big Daddy. Because they're too close to Big Daddy. So my opinion is if we don't want to drive businesses away and we actually want to develop. So my opinion is these areas that drive businesses away and we actually want to develop in the future. These areas that we're looking to bring business in and business taxes in the future. We have to get rid of this outdated.
I completely hear that. And in addition, I took a quick look just at some similarly situated. In addition, I took a quick look, and I don't think that just at some similarly situated cities, and I don't think that what the staff is recommending falls too far away from what other cities are doing. I think that deserves to be noted.
So it will come. We're still putting a condition. We're not just opening up alcohol. It will come to the council.
Exactly.
We're not just opening up.
Yeah, which I think is perfect because it's a perfect stopgap, right? Yeah. So we don't run away businesses because it's a perfect stopgap, right? So we don't run away businesses for all these which is already that we have coming about to be even the getting the development started, which is already they want to do their bottom about to be getting part their first floor. They want to do their bottom mixed use. Their bottom part, their first floor is mixed use. They can't do it because they're too close to Big Daddy. There with wine and cheese. So we're going to be driving away businesses because they're too close to Big Daddy. So we're going to be driving away businesses, so we bring businesses in, but also not only do we fix this so we bring businesses in, but also there still has a perfect solution now, and I would just ask that we move this to full council. I think it's a perfect solution now, and I would just ask that we move Madam Chair back to council.
Exactly. Does anyone else on the committee have, does
Madam
anyone
Chair,
on
back
this
to you,
item,
Madam Chair.
Councilperson Arbon? Does anyone else on the committee have a comment on this item, Councilperson
thinking
Arbon?
that in this language, it's proposed package stores and proposed package stores, for lack of a better, bars and restaurants are lumped into the same. For lack of a better, bars and restaurants are lumped into the same between package stores and say, language at all between package stores and say bar restaurant. I guess the easiest way to say that.
Not at the moment and not within the existing language, but that can be included. Many codes not at the moment and not within the existing language, but that can be included. Many
when I first came
codes
across this, I was thinking, well, if we just change the language to have this apply to package stores, if we just change the language to have this apply to package stores and not necessarily to people, consume the alcohol on that property, bar and restaurant, right? Versus a package store, consume the alcohol on that property, out of that bar and restaurant, right? I was thinking that just by separating those two, we could out of that property. I was thinking that just by separating those two, we could accomplish that exists now in terms of package stores. The same language that exists now in terms of monopoly on package stores. I think part of this not concern like Big Daddy's monopoly on it. The original language of this seems to be the concern that you would have an overabundance. The original language of this seems to be the concern that you would have, an overabundance of liquor stores. Professional experience. So I can tell you that that is a well-founded my own professional experience. And I can tell you that that is a well-founded concern. I don't know if there was any thought given to I don't know if there was any thought given to versus restaurant and bar and cafe isolating package store language versus restaurant and bar and cafe language.
Thank you. The reason why I didn't want to do that is because, so for example, if you go to Miami Shores, the reason why I didn't want to do that, they have some nice little wine. So for example, if you go to Miami Shores, they have some nice wine stores to where they're not serving wine in it, but it's like a little nice little wine store to where I didn't want to take that away because when that trailer park gets basically like a package store, and I didn't want to take that away because when that trailer park gets cafes, and they might have it's going to be mixed. I mean, that trailer park they might have nice cafes. Imagine if and they might have I mean, that trailer park is huge, you guys. Imagine if like there's like a wine store, wine and more. There's like a wine store, wine and Total Wine. It's like so what if there wants to be like a Total Wine in the trailer
Total
park?
Wine.
And then so what if there wants to be like a stores down, like a little cafe
in the trailer park?
You know what I mean?
And
So
then
like
two
stores down
with the whole
cafe.
stopgap if they have to come
You know what I
before
mean?
the
So I
council.
don't. So the
thing about it is with the whole stopgap
if they have to be in just council.
that
a million big
saves us
daddies
from.
So I think that the language is good because they still have to come before
a million
council.
big daddies.
And I don't want to
So I
drive
think that
away
the language is
little
good
mom and pop,
because they still have to come
not
before
mom and pop
council.
stores, but
And I don't want to drive away
Miami Shores. They have
pop,
these little mom and
not
pop like
mom and pop
nice stores.
wine
You know what I mean? Like when you go to Miami Shores, they have these selling wine and things like nice wine stores. I don't want to drive them away that either. might be selling wine and things like that.
Because everything, I'm assuming that when you think of the package stores, GoDaddy. Because everything, I'm assuming that when you think of the package stores, GoDaddy, GoDaddy. But Big Daddy doesn't correct. There are things, I think the name is Flight in Miami Shores, and there are some smaller, more curated. There are things, I think the name is Flight in Miami Shores, and there are some smaller, more curated offerings that might challenge our preconceived on the committee have a comment on this item? So I agree with you. Okay, so I'll go ahead and. On the committee have a comment on this item? Okay, so I'll go ahead and.
What's the recommendation on?
Nope. Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
What's the recommendation on this amendment?
It's a recommendation from the planners.
Was there
It's
anything?
a recommendation from the planners.
Let's do this. Was there anything? You made the language on the screen. You said, let's do this. And we're doing distance restrictions. But I'm saying, what are we doing here?
We're changing the language as per the red line. We're changing the language as per the red line. The motion is to go ahead and change the code. The red line. So the motion is to go ahead and change the code.
But what does it say?
I had mine. Okay, an email form. Do we have a physical copy?
I'm still waiting on my computer, so forgive me for not.
No worries.
I'm still waiting on my computer, so.
Procedurally, this is not before you as an ordinance tonight. Procedurally, this is not to authorize ordinance tonight. The planners to authorize in conjunction with me to go ahead and prepare an ordinance in conjunction with me. That'll come before you for first and second reading. Ordinance because that's how you change your code. That'll come before you for first and second reading. This is the concept of it to make sure that you're on board. This is the concept of it to make sure that you're on board so we can ordinance to amend your code. A specific ordinance to amend your code.
I'm giving Councilman Lightfoot Ward just a minute. I'm giving Councilman Lightfoot Ward just a minute.
So, Mayor, you came up with this language all by yourself? Mayor, you came up with this language all by yourself?
I wish. I reached out to Plus Survey and they assisted me with it. But I reached out to Plus Survey and they assisted me. I didn't want to drive away any businesses. I did come up with the idea because I didn't want to drive away any businesses from being in El Portal.
We're eliminating another restriction. That the village we're eliminating another restriction.
Well, not eliminating, I would think modifying. Well, not eliminating, I would think modifying. We're being more permissive on a certain item.
Okay, very good.
We're being more permissive on a certain item.
Okay, very good.
There's a motion on the floor to go ahead and, there's a motion on the floor to go ahead and
move this to full council.
Could you restate that, Mayor Nickerson?
March full council. Motion to move this to full council, the March full council meeting, Madam Chair.
I second that motion. Can we have a roll on that? It's what? Oh, open, sorry. Does anyone have a comment on this? It's what? Oh, open, sorry. That you want to? Does anyone have a comment on this item? Okay, I'll open it and now it's closed. Come up here and express yourself about. Committee we go. Okay, I'll open it and now it's closed. Back to the.
Roll call. Committee we go.
Member Lightfoot. Can we have a roll, please?
Roll call. Member Perrella. Member Lightfoot Ward. Member Nickerson.
Yes.
Yes.
Member Perrella. Vice Urban. Member Nickerson. Chair Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-10. Urban.
Yes.
Okay,
Chair
motion
Martin.
passes.
Motion passes 5-10.
I will go ahead and pass
Madam
it.
Chair?
Sure. Councilwoman Lightfoot, I will
Can
go
we
ahead and.
start referring to
move-
little trailer?
Sure.
We got rid of that.
Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
Can we start referring to little trailer? We got rid of that. What's that place called? That was always Little Farm. What are we calling it? I thought Little Farm, that was always Little Farm. You see where I'm going, right? Yeah. I thought it was a disgrace. I don't know why we still trying to make it out like it was a big deal. It was a disgrace. I don't know why we still trying to make it out like it was a big deal.
That's firmly noted. We need to come up with a name.
We need to give it another name.
So I'll go ahead and move on to the good and welfare. Does anyone have a closing comment? So I'll go ahead and move on to the good and welfare. Does anyone have a closing comment that they would like to share with us? There is none. I will go ahead and move on to seeing that there is none. I will go ahead and move on to adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Planning and zoning meeting for
I'll
Tuesday, March
make a
9th.
motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Okay. Motion is offered by Mayor Nickerson, seconded by Councilperson Perrella. Offered by Mayor Nickerson, seconded by Councilperson Perrella. All in favor?
Aye, Madam Chair. All in favor?
Anyone
Say aye, Madam
opposed?
Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sounds good. We are adjourned. Anyone opposed? Sounds good. We are adjourned.